Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. We've got a really cool Firebird to check out today, and it's not just any Firebird, this one is special. Right after this. This is a 2002 Pontiac Firebird, and it's not just any Firebird, it is a Firehawk. It is in very, very good shape. This has an LS1 and it has 345 horsepower. Way more than any of the Trans Ams or Formulas. This one's in such good condition for a reason. It has 10,000 original miles on it. Not 100,000, 10,000. When I first sat in the car, I wasn't even aware of that. I started it and I was going to check out the complaint and I said, wow, it's got 100,000 miles. And I looked again and I said, no, that's 10,000 miles. Whoa. And if you open the hood, like we're getting ready to here in a little bit, it looks brand new under the hood. Let's take a look. Look at that, guys. Even the foil on the hoses is like brand new. Every bolt is still shiny. It's as if I just went to the dealer back in 2002 and bought a Firehawk and drove it to my shop. It is that much brand new. Absolutely amazing. This is the LS1. Previous iterations of any of the Firebirds, not too far before this one, would have had LT1s, which I really don't care for that engine because it has the water pump, drive shaft issues, OptiSpark, all the different things, and it's a pain to get it apart. This, however, is the engine of choice. This is the one that I would have. Lots of power, lots of potential, and I can almost work on it blindfolded. This is the way to go. The reason why this car is in here is actually nothing under this hood. It really doesn't have any serious issues. The customer is concerned that the speedometer is off. It's showing a higher miles per hour than actually what he's traveling. He just kind of has a feeling that something's not right there and he'd like it checked into. We're going to go for a quick drive in this thing. I'm going to show you guys how I can verify the readings versus the speedometer. And then we're going to put this thing on the lift and check the underneath out and see what it looks like under there. Let's get inside and fire this thing up. So we got it started up. I want to show you guys the mileage. Check it out. 10,105. It's amazing. It even feels and smells new inside of here. But let's take a look at the scan tool here. I've got my little MS906 that I still have hooked up. It's my portable version. We're going to do the live data, engine data. We're going to look at vehicle speed sensor only. And there's where it's going to show our value. We would like to see this number match the actual speedometer. So let's go take it for a ride and get her up to speed and see what it does. Let's get it up to 40 miles an hour and do a comparison. So we're at 40 on the speedometer, but the computer says we're doing 31. The customer states that the faster you go, the further off it is. So we'll get outside of town here and we'll get it up to 60 and see what it says. Okay, now the speedometer says we're doing 65, but when we look down here we're doing 52, so that's getting worse. That's just like the customer said. As we go faster, it gets worse and worse and worse. Let me get around the corner up here and we'll turn around. Okay, we're going to get it up to about 70 or 75 and see where we're at. It's pretty easy in this car. So the speedometer says we're doing 70 miles an hour. We're not, we're doing 55. Something is drastically wrong inside. I believe it's inside the instrument cluster. We'll talk about it as soon as we get back to the shop. But as you can see, the faster we go, the further off it is. It's almost 15 miles. It is. It's 15 miles an hour off. That's way off. It gets progressively worse the faster you go, so it's definitely not a gearing problem. It's changes with speed. And Mrs. Wizard has on her phone a GPS speed tracker, and it's been dead exact to what the computer is reporting through the vehicle speed sensor. It may be off a mile an hour, 1 mile, or half of a mile an hour. But I know now that the speed on the computer is accurate. The problem is in the cluster. So we just took this wonderful car on a road test, and we verified using Mrs. Wizard's phone with a GPS speedometer. Also the readings from the vehicle speed sensor directly out of the ECM. Those numbers matched almost identically. They're maybe a tiny bit off, but not enough to really worry about, a half a mile an hour. So I know that the computer's readings are accurate. I also know that the computer is telling the instrument cluster the correct speed. But the instrument cluster is failing. It's not displaying the speed that it's being told to display. The computer's saying, here we are at 55, and the speedometer says, okay, 75, 70, whatever. No, something's wrong with the cluster. In the research that I've done, that the clusters start to fail, and it's really common to go to a junkyard and get a Camaro, Firebird. Apparently they're all the same. You swap it out, and the problem's solved. The issue I have with doing that on this car is that his instrument cluster is absolutely immaculate, 10,000 miles, perfect. I'm not just going to throw in a junkyard instrument cluster into there and it looks ratty and scratched up. And you can't buy these new, not anymore. So I'm going to check in to see if maybe the cluster can be rebuilt, because you want to keep the originality that's going on here. Everything on this car is in that immaculate shape. So we want to keep it that way. We need to try and see if we can get that one rebuilt. That's my next step on this one. So we'll go ahead and put it on the lift, just to let you guys take a peek underneath, and then that'll pretty much do it for this one. That's the only complaint we had, and using the data that I have, I now know a direction to go with the customer. So let's get it on the lift. I don't expect to find a whole lot under here with the low miles that are on it, but it does have age. And the radiator is nice and dry, which is good. The belt looks good. As you can see, this is easy to work on. You can reach everything. I don't see anything on the front of the engine leaking. Let's check these brakes and wheels. Brakes are good. Nothing loose there. Sway bar link is tight. Good brakes. Nothing loose there. Go to the back of the engine. These like to leak on the LS base motors. These 2 bolts here, there's a little oil cooler adapter that can go there. That's a common leak point on these, but this one's not leaking, luckily. It does have some tiny seepage here. That might be porosity through the oil pan. I don't think it's actually leaking. And here's our transmission, nice and dry. Dexron 3 ATF only. Nothing going on there with leaks. Even the drive shaft is shiny new. That's crazy. Look at there's a sheen on it. Everything's shiny like new. It's like it just left the factory. Check these brakes, and they're good. Sway bars are good. Nothing loose there. Shocks look good. Brakes good. Nothing loose there. Sway bar's good. Differential's not leaking. Still has the stock exhaust on it. Probably the way I would leave it too if I had a Firehawk, because I believe the value is going to shoot up on these. And this one's stock all the way down to the muffler. So just as I thought, the underneath is spotless. There's nothing wrong. That doesn't surprise me with 10,000 miles. But as we were looking at the rear differential, it came to mind, I know for a fact the differential hasn't been changed to a different ratio gears because the speed being reported matched GPS perfectly. So that means that everything is set up properly as far as gearing and speed sensor and all that. Also, the tire size must be correct. And I did verify in the door jamb, the size matches exactly like it's supposed to be. So the tire size is not an issue, especially when we know that it's reporting a perfect speed. It's guaranteed to be in the speedometer. Thinking of GM parts, we just did the Cadillac XLR video. You can see it in the background back there. We had to push it out of the way. The radiator that I finally did find through CarQuest was the wrong one. That XLR has a transmission cooler and an oil cooler. As you can see in this radiator, this is the old one. It's got transmission coolers and engine oil coolers. And the ones without the oil cooler, it seems like there's 500 million of those for sale. They're everywhere. But if you want the one with the engine oil coolers, I contacted a few people and they said it's going to be a dealer-only item. So this is one of the dilemmas sometimes we run into with specialty cars. Now I'm going to have to call the customer and say, that $700 or $800 we talked about on the radiator, it's going to be about $1,200. Because when I contacted the dealer and got the price for the radiator, it was more than double Rock Auto's price or any other of these prices. Of course, it's because it's from a dealer, it's understandable. And when there is no other option to get the engine oil cooler version of the radiator, this customer is either going to have to pay it or we'll put it back together and he can have it back and chance it, I guess. So it's kind of the dilemmas we run into in a shop every day. It's kind of a bum deal. I hate that for the guy. But I'm learning a lot about XLRs right now. So with this Firehawk, we're going to let it back down and I'm going to do some research. I'm going to contact the customer. He may say he's just going to get a GPS speedometer and just use it that way because he doesn't want to butcher up the dash or tear or put swap parts and this and that. And I don't blame him. This is a really cool sports car. It actually has a back seat, being a two-door, that's somewhat usable. There's a lot of things about this car that's really surprising me. When I went and drove it, it rides so soft. It's so smooth. It's not like bam, bam over the bumps. It was actually very comfortable. I was surprised. Maybe that's because it's so new as far as miles. I don't know. But anyways, I thought you guys like to follow along on the diagnosis on this thing and read some of the data that I looked at and came to the conclusion that I came to. If you're having a similar issue and it's just going to be too much to fix, you can also use your phone with the GPS and at least get an accurate speed so you're not breaking the speed limit. And if you're interested in any kind of tools I use, check my Amazon affiliates page in the link below. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do that now. We got many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.